Hello, homeschoolers. Welcome to the land of Kakiak. I wanted to give you a concrete example of how you can model academic skills in your family subjects. We have in our house 3 family subjects. They are Bible, which we do daily, it's first thing in the morning, and then we alternate units of science and history. And then they're 3 R's. They're broken apart on their own level, mostly independent work. I think, as I was doing Bible this morning, I have a habit of pulling out a vocabulary word from what we're reading, or sometimes 2 or 3. And I started, just wanting to, I was thinking about doing that just so that they could better comprehend what they were reading, which is valuable. But I realized what I was actually doing is also modeling for them where to look for a deeper understanding and what that would look like and how they can apply it to the study of Bible. But really, you can do this with all your subjects. And I realized, back when we were doing our reading, our read alouds for history, I was doing basically something similar, but a little bit quicker. I was having us stop and look up definitions, and we were discussing words and then putting them into the context that we were reading them to deepen our understanding of the read alouds. But when you're reading aloud, you're reading like a chapter. That's kind of a longer activity than like what we're doing right now, as we've been going through in Bible. So I thought this would be a good time to show you. We've been going through Wonderful. We're studying the Psalms, psalm by psalm, and the Psalms are short and much easier to read than a lot of Bible passages, in my opinion, and the kids are notebooking on them, which I've talked about that, right? I think it's so effective to model these behaviors for your kids and include them in them, because I realize what I'm actually doing is I'm training them how to do things that I want them to be able to do for themselves by modeling the behavior. And then I'll just kind of I'll show you, okay? We are reading. I opened up Wonderful, right? The kids are ready. They've got their notebooks out. They open up their book and they title it whatever psalm we're working on for today. So today, I think I wrote this on Williams, but Psalm 64, right? It goes on top of the page. Usually I have them date it. I open up my resource, right? So the first thing I saw under Psalm 64, I was like, that's where we're starting today. But I always do is I always go to I like to model, go to the source if you can, right? So if you're a Robinson curriculum person on here, this is an idea that Art puts out, that why trust a translation through the lens of a historian, what they write about something, when you can just go to the source. That's why the reading list is full of autobiographies, diaries, and first-hand accounts of historical periods and events. Smart. Go to the source. So I never just read this book. I just kind of use it as a guide of what to read next. But we trust but verify, correct? We go to the source. I'm going to grab the source. The Holy Bible, right? So we're going to flip open 65. And I couldn't help but notice they have it labeled for me, which I know is not, that's something that somebody put in later, but it's David praises God for his provision. So the title, you've told the kids, look at the title of something. It's going to give you a clue what the text is going to be about. So David praises God for his provision. So they know what praises means. And I was like, I don't know that they know what provision means. So I throw it out there. Hey, do you guys know what provision means? Nope. Guess what? We just found our first vocabulary word for our family subject. So provision went up on the board. I don't know, can you see it back there? Provision, right? Then guess who? I asked Everett to look it up in the dictionary, right? So I have showed them how to look things up in the dictionary. I did ask him to explain how he was looking it up to his brother William. I've been working with William. We're trying to get him up to speed on looking things up alphabetically in encyclopedias and dictionaries, because we'll be using those a lot. He's still pretty slow at it, so I just asked Everett to explain himself as he looked it up. So he, said, oh, okay, you get the dictionary, that starts with P. So we're gonna look in the P section. He shows them where that is. And he mentioned the guide words. So this is gonna be the first word on the page. This is gonna be the last word on the page. Then we look to the second word. So I just, he was explaining it, and he found the word provision. From the dictionary, we can verify where the syllable divisions are. And a lot of times they'll give you the pronunciation in there. So it's nice that because we were kind of like, is it provision or provision, right? But they clarified that with us. I don't know if you can see my schwa symbol right there, the upside down E over the O in the first syllable. Yeah, like it's a schwa, it's provision. That's a provision. And then we talked about where there's the accent, right? It's over the V. And then we were talking about, well, why is it V? It looks like an open syllable, right? Why isn't it provision? Well, that kind of, like, I can see pro, I'm pretty sure that's a Latin, prefix. I was like, maybe there's a Latin root word to this. So this came in handy, right? The Dictionary of Word Origins. We did look up provision. We read through. Everett did some good reading for me. We did some searching through and sorting through. And this doesn't take very long, We're working through it together. We're taking notes. I'll just kind of show you what it looks like, right? So we've got the word provision. We divided it up by syllable. It's a noun, right? It's a common noun, and it's abstract. Like, it's more like an idea, right? We put the schwa on there. We marked the short I. Jeune. We talked more like, well, that's a phoneme, right? So let's look at an open syllable should be a long I, right? That was our question. So we looked in our word origin book, found pro, right? Means, it's from the base word. The base word actually of this whole thing is provide, right? Which when you look up provide in our word origins book, you get pro is a prefix in Latin, which means before, meant, or foresee. And vide is from, I think it's pronounced videre, which means to see. So it's like foresee and see. So really this means foresight. And we said it's related to the word vision, which means sight, right? We broke it down a little bit more. This is hard for me to camera. Right, so we did, the very first word they have is providere, which means to foresee. That's what it meant in Latin. Then it kind of morphed, still in Latin, to foresee and making preparations, right? Because if you can foresee that you need something, you would then make the preparations for it, right? So they were already using it that way before it got into English, where it became provide. And we have come to, it came to be known as supply. Provision, right, is just a version of provide. It's the act, it's the act of providing or supplying. We also noticed the spelling pattern here, right, of jeune, where I used my Mop Media flashcards, right? I pulled out this card. So this is going to be, this SI is the second, it's the voiced version. So usually SI would say sh, but in this case it's using the second version of what it stands for is je. And it says often you'll see that as ZH in a dictionary, right? Je, provision. I did the whole thing where I was like, do this, say sh, unvoiced, and then zh, voiced. And you can feel your voice box turn on, right? Then we looked up the spelling pattern that the card gave us on the back of the card. So there's a spelling pattern associated with the SI phonogram, and it is that on the second and, on syllables in a word, they cannot begin with SH. And there was like two exceptions, such as things that end like apprentice, ship, that can have an SH for the sh sound, and the word, I think, marshal. But those were like the only ship endings, like as a suffix, and like the word marshal. But for the most part, the pattern is that after the first syllable that you're going to have an SI, not an SH, to make the sh. And it must begin with CI, SI, or TI, right? So you're going to see all those shun, words shun and jeune, and in this case, jeune, are going to be S-I-T-I or C-I, and then except for the word ocean, ocean is C-E, right? So that's kind of an odd one. Anyway, so we also just made a note that provide, right, it's related to the word vision, which means sight, right? I mean, it really doesn't take that long. A deepening understanding of whatever you're reading, but you're also modeling where to find that deepening, right? In the origin of the words, I always start with the dictionary. We come up with a simplified definition, then we talk about spelling patterns we see, and then go to the root of it, of the origin, and then apply it to back to your reading. God's provision, right? So God saw what David needed and provided it, right, before David could really even ask, right? God already knew. So then I do have them go ahead, as we're doing all that studying, and write down in their notebooks that little word study, and then we read the psalm through, and then they did a little copy work. So I usually will go back to this and let them just copy just the excerpt that was being focused on in our study. And then they can do art in there, they can draw, they can... Anyways, so back to my original point was just to model how to find information, how to verify it, how to see how things are connected. And this is just a really simple way, and just to do it consistently, for the kids to pick up those skills themselves. And you know, I'm there to help them with that, but then they get to apply it, especially to their vocabulary lessons and their spelling lessons and their writing and their reading and their reading comprehension. So I really feel like there's a lot of value to starting our day with a family subject, picking out a vocab word, doing a word study on it together, and then applying it to the reading. And yeah, that's my tip. That's my tip for you today. Try it. Tell me how it works out. I'll leave links to my favorite resources down below.